Welcome back to the Kind of Funny screencast. Of course, I'm Tim Geddes, and I'm joined by Pixel Circus's own Saige Ryan.
Simply banshee screeching. Hello.
Hello. Cannot wait to talk about this with you. Of course, we also have the sad boy himself, Barrett Courtney.
I am not your failure, Tim. You didn't kill Barrett Courtney. I did.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. It's going to be one of those. I love it. And rounding out our crew for today, it is the man I'm very, very proud of. It is Anthony Carboni.
Listen, can you believe that we finally got the cameo that we were all waiting for? Ian McDiarmid showed up.
It happened.
In episode 6. I was waiting for McDiarmid, and there he was.
I love it so much. Now, Carboni, the reason I hyped you up in the beginning is because tomorrow, as of recording this, you're doing something extremely cool. Can you say what that is and where people can watch it?
Yes, tomorrow I am hosting the official red carpet live stream for the world premiere of Thor: Love and Thunder. I'm hosting for Marvel along with Erika Ishii and Tamara Krinsky. That's going to be at 8:45 Eastern, 5:45 Pacific, and that's marvel.com/Thor premiere. I cannot believe this. I am so freaking hyped for this.
I'm so hyped for you, man. I can't wait to see your outfit. I'm taking bets on, is the red carpet a red carpet or is it a different color? Fingers crossed. I'm hoping it's a different color. I hope it's just a mirror. That might cause some problems, but like I hope it's something really cool.
Are you trying to upskirt the entire of Marvel Studios, Tim?
That wasn't the goal. That wasn't the gool. I just think mirrors are cool.
He immediately thought of that right as he said it, though, for sure.
Yep.
Well,
like, that was regret washed over.
We saw you realize it in your head. As you realized what you did.
What? Continue.
Come on. No, I have nothing to say.
Okay, well, this is the Kind of Funny screencast. Each and every week, we get together to talk about the latest in TV, movies, and trailers. And most of the times these days, we're doing all three of those things because things keep popping off. Right now, we're doing the Miss Marvel weekly recaps, the Kenobi weekly recaps. We just did Stranger Things. We got a ton of other stuff upcoming as well. On the in-review side, we're doing our Thor rewatches leading into Thor: Love and Thunder. Cannot wait for all of this. What a time to be alive. You can get it on youtube.com/kindafunny or roosterteeth.com. You can get it as a podcast by searching your favorite podcast service for Kind of Funny Screencast. You can also get the show live as we record it and ad-free by going to patreon.com/kindafunny, just like our Patreon producers, Gordon McGuire, Molecule, and Fargo Brady. Today, we're brought to you by Shopify and Athletic Greens, but I'll tell you about that later. Saige, you're already screaming. What are your thoughts on the finale?
This was single-handedly for me the greatest episode of Star Wars television ever made. We'll say even live action. I don't think it's fair to compare the animated series, not even for a lack of the quality, even potentially exceeding it from my personal heart. I just think it's a different ballgame. I got everything that I wanted out of this episode. As soon as the episode started, I was sitting here and I was just like, I can't believe we haven't seen Palpatine yet. It feels weird that we haven't seen Palpatine yet, and we've been talking about wanting this Qui-Gon appearance so badly, but we haven't really talked a lot about the simple, lack of that we're getting so much Vader and not Palpatine, knowing full well Palpatine's thriving. We were Sheeveless, and it was breaking my heart. So that Sheev appearance was everything to me, and also simply getting one episode, which we haven't gotten, with the thing that we didn't get from Boba Fett, for instance, of Obi-Wan at his most Obi and fullest Wan. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Absolutely peak Jedi strength in a way that I think that we keep elevating the strength in the Star Wars universe, which could eventually become problematic of where do we draw a line? I'm not there yet. Right now, I love it. Of how strong a Jedi can be. And I think we've pushed that up one more notch this time than we have in any of the movies of just Jesus Christ, these people are ridiculous. Force powers so greatly exceed so many of the things we thought them to be. And this episode just made me cry about it.
I think of it the same way I think of Star Trek Discovery is set before the original Star Trek, but it looks like everything is so much more futuristic. Mm-hmm. Don't worry, the force powers keep getting ratcheted up, and that's fine for me.
Fine with me?
It's fine for me.
What did you think of the finale, though, Carboni?
I loved it. There were some things that we hit on last week where we were like, I hope they do it this way. I hope they don't do it this way. I gotta say, there was more Luke than expected. Luke was a little more aware of what was going on than what was expected. Is that a problem for me? Not really the way they handled it. One of the things that I do want to say, I mean, we're obviously going to talk a lot about Obi-Wan and that duel, but I want to say that the way they tied up Reva made me very happy. We had talked about who will she confront, what who will stop her eventually, what will go down, and her coming to kind of her own senses about this and kind of having her own character growth, even after a little bit of fighting, I think was the best way to handle that. And my God, the goodbye between Obi-Wan and little Leia. Woof.
Right.
This is a very good episode. And I do want to say, even though we only got 5-10 seconds of Sheev, I love is like, he stole the episode as he always does. The man's a thief. Ian McDiarmid came in and he goes, are you agitated, old friend? And I'm just like, oh, Sheev literally showed up to go, you mad?
Mad, bro?
You seem tilted. Are you tilted? And like Vader's like, I'm not tilted. He's like, you seem a little tilted.
Seems like your feelings make you weak.
I love the episode. I love it a lot.
Barrett.
I enjoyed it. We had our kind of questions leading into this episode. And not everything worked for me in this episode, and there was a lot that worked for me at the same time. Ian McDiarmid showing up, doing his best to just elevate Star Wars literally every second he is on screen.
Hell yeah.
The moment, literally my favorite moment, where you're splicing Hayden's voice with James Earl Jones's voice with the split helmet, which was an inspired choice. So many moments like that I really enjoyed. I think the way it all wrapped up, I felt like was a, I don't want to say the word, for lack of a better word, safe, and I say that only because I think with Obi-Wan and, having this be an Obi-Wan show, this feels very similar to other stories we've gotten about Jedi in this era. And, it has its own moments to make it an Obi-Wan show, but personally not enough for me to make it, like, stick out amongst the mold of, like, the Ahsoka book, right? Where, it's a few years after Order 66, and Ahsoka's kind of going through the same stuff of just survive and then kind of, like, reignite that spark of, like, what made her a Jedi, why she, wanted to help people, and then kind of, like, having that leave her off into, like essentially setting her up for where we see her in, slight spoilers, Star Wars Rebels. And then, similar with like Cal Kestis and Jedi Fallen Order and stuff like that. And kind of his arc overall in this didn't feel too unique out of the three of those. And I think that's where I'm kind of coming down on, like, yeah, it was good. It delivered on the moments that I wanted to, but it didn't deliver anything that was like, holy shit, this is the next best Star Wars thing for me. I really enjoyed the show. I wonder if it'll be one that I want to revisit often, because it does have some great moments. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I feel like on the finale itself, I'm a little higher than Barrett seems to be, but I'm not quite as high as the two of you. Where it kind of gave me everything I was looking for. Yeah,
we're there every week.
But it was just now Barrett's usually, I'd say, a little higher than I am.
I'm usually with y'all.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I think that overall, it's like this episode is, I mean, as perfect of a send-off for what this show is as I think it could have been. Like, it definitely fit the tone. I feel like this was a very consistent ride the entire way through. And to me, that ride was in the 7 out of 10 range, but like, that's fine. Like, I don't think this did anything horrible along the way. And I think that that's great, because the entire time they flirted with like messing up the canon and like contradicting things, which like, is unfortunately kind of the sole purpose of these shows, where it's like, well, it takes place between this very specific thing and this very specific thing. So we're like, well, you better fit with those specific things because we're fucking watching. And so I feel like the show kind of got goofy at some points with how close it would flirt to the line without messing something up and going away. And I think that in some cases gotten its own way of allowing it to be its own interesting story. But I think at the end of the day, Obi's arc itself worked for me, and I liked seeing him, like the choice to really have him stick with Leia the entire ride through allowed the final goodbye between them to feel not just earned, but like it kind of enhanced the Star Wars mythology. And I did not see that coming when we first got little Leia. I was always under the impression, I was like, I like her a lot and I love what they're doing with this, but like this does feel like they're just connecting things to connect things. But by the end of it, I'm like, no, this actually, I think, makes the A New Hope conversations a little bit better. There is then the Luke side, which wasn't handled as poorly as I feared, but I still think was a little bit just kind of like padding for this. Last week, we talked about this 6-episode show. Maybe I would have preferred it to be an event movie to kind of just condense some of the storyline bits down and add some production value here or there. Because overall, I feel like my biggest disappointment with the show is that, unlike Saige, it never made me squeal. And I'm a squealer. I'm looking for things that make me go like, ah! And like, I feel like this show even added, they gave me Qui-Gon, and just the way they did it, while I don't hate it, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, he's here, and now he's gone. Okay, cool.
I think it was a tasteful amount of Qui-Gon Jinn.
No, it was.
It
absolutely was.
Was it the right taste? Was it the right moment that I wanted for Qui-Gon Jinn personally? No, but it was a tasteful amount of Qui-Gon Jinn, I will say.
I'll agree it wasn't the moment I was asking for, because obviously we had all of these moments that he called out to him. And then I remembered, I'm not a Star Wars writer, and I think they rate Star Wars better than I do. So they didn't give it to me when I asked for it. They gave it to me when they wrote it into the show, and it was so good.
I think, I did enjoy the Qui-Gon. I think what y'all are trying to articulate is if you wait 6 episodes for Qui-Gon and Qui-Gon shows up, you want Qui-Gon to say one of those like very wise Jedi lines. You know what I mean? You want something that like people are going to put on t-shirts and on mugs. You want Qui-Gon to impart some sort of like bit of beautiful Jedi quotable wisdom. You want that to be that moment that hits you. You want that Ghost of Yoda moment. You want that Ghost of Obi-Wan moment. I understand that.
Yeah. I was always here. You're just not ready to see. And that's that moment.
That's pretty good. But it didn't, but I see where like I can understand why it didn't hit the way y'all wanted it to hit. You know what I mean?
I just personally would have liked to have a moment where Obi and Qui-Gon, where we actually like see kind of Qui-Gon talk about Anakin becoming Vader in a certain moment. I get why they wouldn't want to do that, and just have it be more of like the end cap to the show and end cap to the story, and transition into whatever he's gonna like kind of become over the next 10 years for Obi-Wan. But that's just personally something that I would have wanted. And I think, granted, I didn't like hate the episode because it was different. It was just like, huh, okay.
I think that comes down to the sort of the theme of self-forgiveness for Obi-Wan that was in this series, where like they could have talked about like, Master, what happened, like this is the way Anakin went down, or like how do you feel about the way, you know what I mean, like some sort of thing about talking about where they are. But I think it's kind of like, no, things are the way they are. We made the decisions that we thought were the best decisions at the time. I'm glad you're connected to the Force again. We can hang out and chat now whenever you want. Let's move forward. You know what I mean?
Genuinely, as silly as that sounds, that is the thing. And there's a couple of things that they set up for this show that fill in that time in between, now even between the end of this series and A New Hope, right? So one of those being that, in theory, this tells us that Obi-Wan has potentially spent those entire 10 years with Qui-Gon, which is beautiful and incredible, because we assumed that Obi-Wan has just been like madman by himself living in a cave, and I love that. Like I said, I think like Tim was saying about the relationship with Leia, setting up the moment of they don't see each other for the next 10 years because it's dangerous to do so, and that is still the person because of what happened to them. now it makes sense that of everyone in the entire galaxy, that is the person that she believes can save her when something is really, truly the most wrong, or could save the galaxy itself. And those are the things for me that made this Star Wars.
Yes. And I do love, I mean, there is a moment where you're talking about that tiptoeing, Tim, and there were a couple of lines where I was like, y'all are tiptoeing, where like Obi-Wan talks to little Leia and he's like, listen, we can't let people know that we know each other, okay? Because it would be dangerous for both of us. All right, I gotta go. And that means if you leave a message on a droid in like, say, 20 years, pretend like you don't know me, because you never know who's listening. And
but does she? Does she pretend like she doesn't know it?
I mean, she just says, you served my father in the Clone Wars. And I think that's a problem that people have had. That's one problem that people have brought up, where it's like, why is she being so formal? This is her friend Obi-Wan that like saved her life and they had a tight relationship with. And I always put it aside as like, she's literally being diplomatic. She's literally being, it's been 20 years. Who knows how much Obi-Wan cares about her.
She hung out with a dude for like 2 days at 10 years old and then didn't like, and sent him the first time she like talked to him again was at 19. Like if I was talking to someone who I hadn't seen in 9 years that I, hung out with for a couple of days,
like, your parents.
I'd be a little formal, like,
Hey man, do you remember me? You're my dad's friend from work. You know what I mean? You don't want to presume. So I sort of understand.
You're cool, but
right.
Like,
but you're a
Jedi. Me now.
You're a Jedi. Who knows how many little kids you're off saving? Do you even remember me? Like, so I'm kind of cool with that. But I do love that they put that little line in just to like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You can't contact me. Okay, we're not friends. Okay,
right.
Just to like put that in there in case people were worried. Like,
which was so
did
sad.
They try to. It was very sad because like, oh, the moment that he had with her where he's like, these are the qualities you got from your mother. These are the qualities you got from your father. And one of my favorite things about Star Wars is nobody shit talks Anakin Skywalker. People shit talk Vader, but they understand everybody shit talks Vader, but they understand Anakin Skywalker was an angsty teen who got taken advantage of by the most gigantic evil force in the universe. And so nobody shit talks Anakin Skywalker to anybody. And I love that. I love that.
So one other thing that I rubbed me a little bit the wrong way was Obi-Wan giving Leia this holster. And I just got tinges of dice out of nowhere where I was like, oh man, are we just trying to make some symbolism out of some shit that wasn't there to begin with? You have so many things you could pull from, but like, is Leia's holster like a thing?
No, and I don't think they're trying to make it a thing. I think what they were trying to do is
trying to make it a thing.
I think what they were trying to do is they have mirrored famous Leia looks on little Leia throughout the series. We think of Leia, and we think of Padme as well. We think of Leia and Padme in their all whites with their leg holsters. We do. Mm-hmm. And so what we're seeing Leia in her all whites with her holster and then her brown boots because her Jedi friend wears brown boots. And we know that she wears brown boots later on, right? And so it's like, we're just seeing this little kid figuring out who they are and mirroring who we know they become. I don't think the holster is something special, though I do love that Lola fits right into the little holster.
Yep.
That is an excellent call.
Because I love the line between the two. Another like perfect Leia moment is like, he gives her the holster and she looks at it and she goes, it's empty. And he goes, Leia, I can't give you a blaster. You're 10 years old. And I'm just like,
but you won't always be.
That was rough.
So good.
Rough.
Obi-Wan, throughout his entire life, just telling kids, you're not allowed to have deadly force yet.
I want to keep talking about this, but before we do that, let me tell you about our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens. I've been using AG1 the last few months because I figured it was well past time I start thinking about vitamins, but I'm usually not the biggest fan of their format. So being able to drink a flavored water is much more up my alley. And I'm a huge fan here of the fact that it doesn't taste super healthy. It kind of has like this mild tropical taste to it that I look forward to every morning. With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, fruits, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. It's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/kindafunny. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/kindafunny to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. athleticgreens.com/kindafunny. This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved only for big businesses to everyone. So upstarts, startups, established businesses, content creators alike can sell everywhere, synchronize online and in-person sales, and effortlessly stay informed. I love how Shopify has the tools and resources that make it easy for any business to succeed, from down the street to across the globe. Our content creator friends use Shopify to manage all their merch sales and stuff, and I recently got Gia a pair of Allbirds from the Allbirds website, which also uses Shopify. So that's an example of big websites using Shopify for their sales. You can gain insights as you grow with detailed reporting on conversion rates, profit margins, and to help you supercharge your knowledge of your sales and your success. You can go to shopify.com/kfgames, all lowercase, for a free 14-day trial, and you can get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business with Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/kfgames right now. That's shopify.com/kfgames for a free 14-day trial. Shopify.com/kfgames. So I want to talk about the fight. Let's get to it. We've been talking about a whole bunch of things, but I mean, this is the big moment. This is the thing we've been waiting for. This is the reason this entire show existed. And I think for the most part, they pulled it off. I think in terms of character, I think in terms of dialogue, it was a 10 out of 10. I think in terms of presentation, it was a little lacking for me. I think the music overall lacked the hype, lacked the memorable, like, oh my God, this is either an old theme that we love being brought back or a new theme I'm going to remember forever, like at Mandalorian Season 2. The final episode, like that was an original song that is now paired with one of my favorite Star Wars moments of all time. But with this, I think that they really nailed the back and forth between him and Obi-Wan fucking pulling up all the rocks and just launching it at him was just everything that I wanted from the show that a couple episodes ago, I didn't think I was going to end up getting.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it as well. I think, musically, I think you're right. We've got those pieces and that motif that John Williams wrote, and obviously that theme is very strong. And so, when anybody's writing music to fill in for John Williams, it obviously is going to hit a little lower. I think for me, something that if I was to kind of point out anything that I think, like, aesthetically I didn't enjoy about it, I would say we're just running up against that thing that I've talked about before, where they're shooting in this LED dome and the technology is very new and it's very good at giving you like very long, like open spaces. But it's not great at giving you depth of field, and it's not great at letting people direct action sequences the way they normally do, where you can go into extreme close-ups and back up. I think they're still learning the technology. And so what you have something like what Barrett was talking about, I think a couple episodes ago, where it's like, it seemed very like I was watching a fight in a play rather than a movie. Like it was staged and choreographed well, but I was watching it from slightly more static angles than normally they would do in an action film. But I think other than that, I mean, the choreography was great. The use of the force powers was great. You got to lift rocks. That's how the force works. And we lifted more rocks than we've ever lifted before.
It's all about lifting rocks.
It fucking owned. And also the slash through the helmet that mirrored the slash through the helmet that Ahsoka gave Vader in Rebels.
Oh, this right here
was very good. And also when he gave him that slash, we get to hear Anakin and Vader at the same time. And you get to hear Hayden Christensen and James Earl Jones both doing the same dialogue the same way. And you get to hear, like, because something that we've sort of learned is that the Vader helmet removes the emotion from Anakin's voice. No matter how emotional he gets, you can sort of hear him yelling, but it modulates it, right? That's something that we know from like the No moment and some of the things in the animated stuff. but it's so wild to hear the pained Anakin voice and the overpowering Vader voice at the same time, talking to Obi-Wan, saying the same things, and they get two different emotional subtexts because of the two different voices.
And
so good.
Something that was impressive to me, and this was something I wrote down before even the helmet gets cut open, is that even just with James Earl Jones's voice, before, it's kind of like right before Vader like buries Obi, and I swore that he was about to say, "Now I have the high ground."
I can't believe he did.
We were all thinking it.
And then he turns to the camera and he winks.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, he does say hello there to Luke. Like they're not above not doing the wink moments.
Hello there comes in less cheesy than now I have the high ground.
But I think the visual was enough. I think they knew what they were doing. But like the line where Vader says the weakness still remains. Like there is a level of emotion even when he's still just robot Vader that we hardly ever see, and it's because he's dealing with, someone who he used to think of as his brother, essentially, right? And that was such a good setup for that moment where you get to hear both Anakin and Vader at the same time, where he's like, we were talking earlier about like this kind of Obi-Wan doing this kind of self-forgiveness type of stuff, and Vader saying, or Anakin saying, like, I am not your failure, you didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, I did. Like, I felt it was both, and again, this is one of the things I really loved about this episode, is you could take it multiple ways, where it's like that, I felt like that was both Vader being spiteful and Anakin being like, don't hold on to this baggage anymore. All at the same time, maybe not on purpose, maybe not consciously saying that, but maybe deep down he was trying to tell that to Obi-Wan, which I really loved. And again, the way that they spliced the voice acting together was just super incredible, and like probably one of my favorite moments in Star Wars.
I think he doesn't even want to give Obi-Wan the credit for creating him. That's how I read it, because I was just like, you didn't kill Anakin. I chose to kill Anakin. Anakin could have survived if I wanted to. I was fine. I was crawling up the beach. I was fine. I had you, motherfucker. I would have won.
Tis but a flesh wound.
I'm right there with you guys. Like the dual voices was so well done, and I think even before that, I was very surprised by the brutality of Obi-Wan beating the shit out of Vader. That's something I didn't expect to see. We so rarely, if ever, definitely not in live action, see Vader get his ass kicked, right? And he. Sure, they were beating each other's ass, but Vader was taking hits, and the sound design when he started getting hit and the wheeze yelling, where like it sounded like Vader
up his chest piece
was having trouble breathing, and he's just like, I was like, this is so damn cool, and like that, it's the type of shit that like little kids playing with action figures think about, right? Like pretend that Vader's dying, like whatever. I loved that, and I was very, very surprised to see that in the show.
Well, and I love it because it's something that, we have this idea of by the time the original trilogy comes around, there's nobody really left who knows who Anakin Skywalker was, or knows that Vader is Skywalker. And so it's something that nobody tries, because it's like, you don't know the nature of Vader's armor unless you know Vader, right? Like there are very few people that get to see Vader in like his vulnerable state in the Bacta tank and get to know who he is. So like, that's a thing that like, Obi-Wan knows. Obi-Wan knows, I'm going to slice at this dude's like chest box, and I'm going to take out his respirator. I'm going to like, and it's such a, man. But just like you're saying too, nobody else is able to get that close to him. And I love that we got the return of this, which means nothing, but I love. It just meant he was back.
Yeah,
he's back.
And he says that as he says, I will do what I must, which is what he says in episode 3, which is like, oh yes. That was great.
Now,
that was a really amazing moment.
Transitioning from one fight to another fight. Saige, what's your take on Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen? Throwing some fisticuffs.
Take on them. I think that it makes sense. They're set up. They knew this would happen. They obviously performed poorly. Because they're normies. They're straight up normies in space that are like, well, a Jedi's coming. I don't know. I guess we'll try to punch a Jedi. Like, right? Like, what are we supposed to do? I guess we'll shoot a blaster. And then they got their shit kicked appropriately. It was also very strange to see Beru even, which is very interesting because obviously, like, there was a long time that she wasn't working with Star Wars at all. But
I didn't know that.
yeah,
Was that the same actress who played her in episode 3?
I believe it was, right?
Yeah,
I think
think
it's
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think they brought them both back.
I didn't mind it. If it had been longer, it would have been a problem for me because I agree that it would have at a certain point gotten cartoony where it's like throw a barrel and kick a thing and whatever. But it was short-lived enough that all it did for me was solidify when she was like, you really love that boy, don't you? And I thought that that was actually a really impactful moment because we've seen the like love that Leia's parents have for her. And I'm glad that we did get to see a little bit of that from Beru and Owen for Luke. That like, no, really, you see a lot of him being this like annoying kid they kind of have to deal with. But to see
even
their
in the original
actual
trilogy,
love for him, right?
Owen's kind of just this cantankerous guy who's just like, ugh, shut the fuck up about the academy already and go to the store.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We saw them go to the thing. And it's like, he broke another thing. Like, come on.
Damn it.
But to
Luke's a
see
pain
him,
in the ass.
say, you really love him like he was your own, and he goes, he is mine.
Yep.
That was great.
He is my own. And
that was cool for me.
And I fucking love how ready Beru is to throw down. Owen's a little like,
it was pretty cool.
Owen's a little like, yo, where do we go? And Beru's like, we go into this hole and we get the rifle that we set aside for when these people come. You remember? Okay, there you go.
Go.
When stormtroopers come, grab your rifle, boys and girls. You know what I mean?
All left me wondering where Reva goes next, because obviously, as much as they've buttoned this chapter for Reva, they very much intentionally left it open that she's out there in the galaxy. And currently, we don't have any extended universe of her. She didn't pop up in any animated series or anything. So I am of the belief that Reva's got to pop up in someone else's live action. I think that that's what they've set up.
Yeah. So where I'm at with this in an interesting way is I wonder how many reshoots happened for this show, because there's something about the Qui-Gon thing that doesn't sit right with me, that doesn't feel like it was the plan to begin with. And I feel like I've seen a lot of interview stuff recently from Deborah Chow and Hayden and Ewan as well, just talking about like they're now referring to this as a season as opposed to a series. Like even on Disney Plus, it's saying season finale. And I'm like, I don't know if there's going to be a season 2 of Obi-Wan, but I do think that maybe there's a Reva show that's been talked about a little bit recently as well. Like I think that this might get a follow-up show, kind of like Book of Boba Fett to Mandalorian.
This is where Tim's producer SEO brain is coming in. And he's like, if I was going to put the Reva show somewhere on Disney Plus, I would put it as season 2 of something that already exists in the database. So when you're done watching Obi-Wan, it immediately starts the Reva show and you don't even notice. I see what you're doing.
Maybe she becomes a gray Jedi. We've never seen a canonical gray Jedi.
No such thing as gray Jedi. But there could be. But there could be.
What I'm saying.
I say this in the sense that I do think that a couple of the story choices made towards the end of the show feel inconsistent with what the show set up. Not fully, but just enough that I was just like, this seems a little bit weird, where I feel like the Qui-Gon thing that they were building to the entire show, the moment we get at the end kind of feels like, really, well, we'll get to the thing you actually are looking for later. And I feel like for this show's whole entire purpose being, hey, it's the things that you guys want to see. I think that's it was a weird choice that I don't think they would have made. And I think that's also backed up with Reva herself. The fake out death scenes, like her getting stabbed in the stomach twice, like this is going to be something people talk about forever. And I think for good reason, because it's like we have seen injuries in Star Wars need to mean something. And I understand we've seen arms cut off, we've seen hands cut off. We've seen people get like very fucked up, but then there's back to tanks. They always come up with some solution of like in Empire, we see Luke go through some shit. Then he's in the back to tank. Then he heals. We see Boba Fett in the show go through some shit. Same thing, right? With Reva now, from what they showed us, twice in her life, she's gotten hit, right? With the lightsaber in the stomach.
Right.
And it's like in this world, in this iteration of it, she gets stabbed, and then sure, she was a little slower in this episode, but it's like this all goes back to Darth Maul coming back and how ridiculous that all is, but they just don't give a shit. And I hate that in this show there was the Grand Inquisitor fake out, him coming back, all these do stomachs not matter?
Stomachs matter, but stomachs do matter, but here's the thing. I think it's more a mirror of the end of the Force Awakens and Kylo, and everybody's like, how were they able to fight Kylo? And it's like, well, he was trying to keep his insides inside with the Force,
Yeah.
right? Like I think you have to have Reva get wounded almost mortally by Vader and have her focus be on staying alive until she can get to the back to tank or whatever.
Right.
Because she wants to go get Luke, and you have to have a way for Owen and Beru to at least be able to stay alive. Because if Reva was not hurt, Owen and Beru would be dead.
And they got a couple strikes in on her.
9 years before they were supposed to be dead.
Yeah.
So, you know,
We also
but I think
can't let all of the men in the galaxy get away with getting stabbed and impaled every time and not let Reva. I refuse to accept that every man can climb into a back to tank and Reva can't. No, Reva's fine.
I do like, I do see what you're saying where I think they maybe shot 2 Qui-Gon things, right? Because we know that Liam Neeson got himself into a little bit of an issue when they were in the midst of the production of Obi-Wan. So I think maybe there was a scene where Obi-Wan does reach out and gets in touch with Qui-Gon, and I think there's a scene where he doesn't, and he says it's okay, I'll keep trying, and we see him in where he lives in A New Hope meditating. I think they probably shot, and I don't have any inside info, but my gut tells me you're probably right. They probably shot alts for that.
Interesting.
But I think like Reva surviving and some of this stuff, even though it's supposed to be like this is exactly what you want to see, there has to be a balance between this is the greatest hits and we're building new Star Wars too. You know what I mean? You have to leave some of these things ready to go. And I think like Reva and the Path open up so many new ways for Star Wars to go on Disney Plus, and so many characters, not just new characters, but characters we can bring back, characters that were in the old canon, characters that are in Legends that can now, they can exist. They can be on the Path. Favorite characters that we had that were part of the Clone Wars or something like that, they can come back. And it's kind of cool. And it's also a great explanation for how there are all these little straggler Jedis in all these, like in comic books and video games and stuff. So I like that Reva got up and survived and did her thing. And I like that now she's kind of confused about her future and she can kind of help out on the Path if that's what she wants to do. And that's a series that I would watch.
Yeah, that would be really interesting.
The more I think about like where Reva ended, I did enjoy it. It was cool to see an Inquisitor come back, you know, like we've seen the kind of process of old Jedi being turned into Inquisitors, but then to like have them walk that back and like, come back to their senses a little bit and not be so enveloped in hate. Right. I thought that was really cool. Like we kind of see it with Seer in Jedi Fallen Order, where she kind of touches into the dark side, but then she cuts herself off from the Force. But it was cool and heartbreaking as well, of like seeing this kid that she like kind of knocked out, having so much hate where it's like all about revenge. I need to get back at Anakin for what he did to me. I'm going to kill this child that he has no idea exists, right? But then she can't help but see herself, and she like, she realizes that she's become what she's hated since then.
Have I become him?
Yeah. And that conversation, Obi-Wan saying like, you chose not to, like the fact that you didn't kill him, you chose not to do that. And, they, where she's like, did I fail them? Like he killed them and I couldn't kill this kid. And that was really heartbreaking. I really liked how that wrapped up for me personally. Again, this like kind of where the show kind of ended, and thinking about the story as a whole. I don't know if I personally would want like another like major Reva thing, just because I really liked what they did here. I don't know where they would go with her from here that I would be super engaged with, but
but as a supporting character, as a new supporting character, at the very least, I'm gonna love seeing where she pops up and what her journey.
Yeah,
is.
I would like to see little tidbits of her. Definitely.
I feel like O'Shea Jackson's gonna get a show. Like, I think the way they focused on him, the way they kind of set him up, I think the Path show, it might not be his name, whatever it was, Roland. I don't think they're gonna call it Roland. Roken. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think they're gonna call it that, but I think that they might be teeing him up because just
The
like
Path Show,
something
yeah.
about his look, something about like the amount of dialogue that he had and the way they positioned him at the end of this, I was like, oh, okay, they're doing something I didn't see coming with this.
And
I'm of the opinion I think he'll be like a supporting character or an ensemble character within a Path Show.
Yeah.
and that would
It adds up. It's cool.
And I would be down for a Path show. I'd be down to have Reva like pop up in that. I'd be down for that just because, you know, maybe setting up Fulcrum a little bit in that show as well, and like how, you know, they kind of tie all of these smaller little rebellions together in a really cool way. Like I'd be down for that story for sure.
Well, I think any story of the Path too is like we've got Bail Organa, we've got Mon Mothma, we can show, we've got little Leia, we can show the beginnings of the rebellion and how they build it up into what it's going to be, and a show about the building of the rebellion that kind of leads into like, I mean, we've got Andor coming.
Well, yeah,
right?
Andor's our next show. That's actually pretty interesting to think about timeline wise. Like, there's obviously a couple year gap, but like, I do think that if Andor were to deal at all with the Path, it wouldn't be. I mean, that would SEO wise make a lot of sense, right? For everybody like telling that one storyline.
But I do like the idea of, okay, we're seeing the beginnings of the rebellion. Like, hey, Roken, they need a leader, you know, and he's, you know, Roken, you know, I love that Roken's line is just like, oh, I'm just getting started. Like, I love, like, because usually
it's no big deal for him.
Yeah, usually a line like that is like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready, or I'll do my best, or like, yes, we can't let. Roken's just like, no.
Yeah,
I already know this.
That's the comparison to them
Yeah.
saying, we're not an army, we're not ready, we can't do this. That's the arc there that they buttoned with being like, oh, we're just getting started. Going from these people that were just refugees that were like, we don't know how to fight this, to being like, oh, we're fighting this.
And so then to skip a few years ahead, and I mean, and then see Andor, and now we get to see the rebellion, like, height of spies in the rebellion, right? And I think, you know, we could also see a younger Andor in this too. You know, we do know that Diego's coming back, but who knows? We know that they love a flashback in these TV shows.
Oh yeah, a back to tank flashback, maybe.
Flashback to.
That's the name of a podcast right there.
You know, overall, I think there were some weak points, but I think this was a strong finale, and I think we knew that the finale was going to be strong. You know what I mean? That's as much as the pacing. We have now gauged the pacing of these Disney Plus shows, and it's like Act 1 is 2 episodes, Act 2 is 2 episodes, Act 3 is 2 episodes, and for good or ill, Act 3 is the one that is the most well paced in all these shows.
Yeah,
and so I think we knew that.
Act 3 is so important, eh?
Oh,
you give 6 episodes to little Eddie, no water. Not one water, not one tiny water. 6 episodes, no.
I haven't seen a single Toydarian in any of this, Watto.
You're so small, everyone orbit around Annie, but no water. No water.
Come on. And listen.
I'm so sorry, Saige.
And that's on Jewish representation in Star Wars.
God,
do you know what I mean?
God.
As a Jewish man,
it's important for us to see ourselves in Star Wars. Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah.
Saige, one time at IGN in 2013, Greg and I were unboxing some Legos because that's what grown men get paid to do. And one of them was this Lego set of Star Wars. I mean, it must have been an episode 4 set. And one of those dewbacks, one of those big, like, I don't know, hippo, like sand hippo things. He, for some reason, thought that was Watto, like when Watto grew up. And
wait, a bantha?
No, like on Tatooine, one of the things that the stormtroopers are riding, with the shoulder thingies. But Greg was convinced it was Watto grown up, and that he was a horse now, and it turned into the Greg Miller wheeze laugh. And then he started talking about little Annie. He's like, little Annie, no bigger than a pumpkin, and he thinks that's the funniest thing. And here we are, over a decade later.
That was the first time I've ever met Greg.
Well,
no, that's perfect.
Yeah. Well, no,
that's honestly the best way to do it.
That's the first time you met
Later,
Watto.
actually, we've ever had.
Yeah,
that's great, actually.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, hey, that's been Kenobi. This has been fantastic. There's no better or worse ending to what just happened to this episode. So we're going to end here. Saige, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you?
You can find me everywhere on the internet at Not Sage or over on the Pixel Circus channel on Twitch and YouTube with Anthony all the time. And soon at every freaking convention in the gosh darn world.
Yes, hopefully soon. Carboni, where can people find you?
I'm everywhere on the internet at A Carboni, except for on Twitch, where I'm at Anthony Carboni. Twitch, you cowards, it's mine. Give it back to me. And of course, tomorrow, if you're at all into biceps or Vikings, please tune into the Thor Love and Thunder red carpet world premiere. That's at marvel.com/Thor premiere. It's 5:45 p.m. Pacific, 8:45 p.m. Eastern. If you're in other time zones, it's not my job to do the math.
I really hope it's not red. I really hope it's not red. Let us know in the comments below what color you think the red carpet's going to be at the Thor premiere. Until next time, I love you all. Goodbye.